Hello, Achim Yekarim. How are you? Hope you're having an amazing day. Shabbat coming up. One of the loyal fans, one of the tzaddikim, asked a good question, and I got the answer. And Baruch Hashem, we wanted to do a little shiur about it, which is the question of when is it appropriate to make the blessing of Shehechiyanu, v'kimanu, v'giyanu lazman hazeh. This is a blessing that anytime there's a significant event, for example, you eat the fruit for the first time during the season, time that we get to a holiday, we say it. But also there is a halacha, which and combined with minag, of which is a custom of doing it when you're getting something new. When you have something, when you buy something new, or then you're supposed to do it. But although the Shulchan Aruch says to make the blessing of Shehechiyanu when you get a new kli, which kelim, which would literally mean utensils. The interpreters and the translators of Chazal actually said that this is actually referring to clothing. The minhag of actually making a blessing on utensils, whether it be pots, pans, or forks and knives, even if it's a very expensive set, is not done anymore. So the only time that you do Shehechiyanu is when you purchase a brand new piece of clothing, whether it's a new dress, of course being modest, or it's a new suit, or even a new shirt. But only if it makes you happy. If you're the type of person that buys a new piece of shirt every other day, and it's no longer making you happy, then you don't make that blessing. This is in such a case where there's sometimes, unfortunately, people that are so into the tava, the desire of buying material, that they end up buying new things on a regular basis just because they feel the need to buy something, and not necessarily because they want what they're buying. Just like you see sometimes there's rich people that have a brand new car every few months, or they have a collection of 30, 50, 100 cars, but they never actually drive. These are very sick people, unfortunately, and even though it looks cool and it looks like fun and they make TV shows about these poor people, the reality of it is that there's no one more miserable than them. And the reason why is because someone that doesn't have and finally attains even the smallest thing, the smallest item on their list of desires, is as happy as if he was created today. Whereas someone that has everything he wants and doesn't want, and there's nothing that gets in his way of getting everything, ends up losing the value of what he ends up having. So he ends up just trying to fill this hole that he has in his heart, and which is really in his neshama, with attaining new things on a regular basis. Where he buys a new car, and in the beginning he enjoyed it for a year. The next time he buys a car, he only enjoyed it for 6 months. The next time he buys a car, it's enjoying it only for 2 months. All the way to the point where many, many cases I've seen this firsthand. Somebody buys a car and literally the next day he regrets buying it because he sees somebody else has that same car in a different color, and he's I wish I would have bought it in black. So this is unfortunately a sickness of desire, and the further we are from Hashem, the more this desire will have control over us. But back to the matter in hand, as far as what you make a blessing for, it's so much so that where Chazal is very specific that the only thing that you're making a blessing on is on clothing, but clothing that are making you happy. So even if someone bought a $2 million house, or which is spent their life savings doing it, he doesn't make a blessing. Even if someone just wrote a huge collection of Torah books, he spent all of his life's wisdom that he's attained through very, very hard work writing these books, and pretty much sacrificed his life to write these books. And I could tell you from a little small experience that I have in writing articles over the years, each article is mamash takes a piece of your neshama. And so I could just imagine writing books, or a series of books nonetheless. Even that, you don't make a blessing. You make a purchase of a new car, you don't make a blessing. Why? Because the custom it didn't hold with those items, and the only thing that did hold, the only thing that is valid is when somebody purchases a new piece of clothing that they're going to enjoy. So, for example, if someone bought a new Kiddush cup, like just this gentleman did, new Kiddush cup for Shabbat. This is, something very special, something, that they're going to enjoy Be'ezrat Hashem, something that's going to be part of holiness, and they want to make a blessing. So what you do, is actually, if you bought a piece of clothing, or you could wait until you buy a piece of clothing, and make a blessing for the clothing, and in your mind, intend also for it to also be for the cup itself, and then use the cup. So anytime you make the Shehechiyanu, you have to use it. So, for example, if you're making the blessing for the piece of clothing, you have to actually put it on, and you could take it off. And then, within regards to the cup, since you've already said it in your mind that this blessing for the clothing also is for something else that's new, which is the cup. Since you're not allowed to make the blessing only for the cup, therefore you're making it for the clothing. But once you've made the blessing, you use the cup, you put something in it, any type of beverage, you put wine in it, but then you would have to make another blessing. So the best thing to do is to actually make a blessing on some type of drink, say water or Coca-Cola or whatever your drink that you like is. And the key is to make sure that you're always keeping Hashem's name in mind, where you're not just throwing blessings out there without any rhyme or reason. So much so, to add something to everything, is obviously we're all obligated to make blessings before we eat, so much that anyone that eats without making a blessing is considered as if he stole from Hashem. I would not want to be on that list of thieves from Hashem. The punishment is much more severe than going to jail. So, we need to make blessings before we eat and after we eat, of course. But again, if someone doesn't know what the blessing is, let's say they have a fruit or vegetable, and they don't know whether it's borei pri adama or borei pri etz. In that particular case, if you don't know what the blessing is, or if it's a cookie, and they don't know if it's mezonot or charcoal, which happens very often during Pesach because the cookies are made differently, or if it's anything else, if you do not know the blessing, do not make a blessing, do not eat. Do not eat until you find out what the blessing is. So there is you have to make sure that you know what the blessing is, because just saying a blessing without knowing for sure that that's the blessing is using Hashem's name. So instead of getting a mitzvah, unfortunately getting one of the biggest sins, which we discussed yesterday, which is why we use the word Hashem for God's name versus His real name that's spelled out in the Torah. So always want to make sure that you're careful with all of these things. This is the foundation of Yirat Shamayim, which is fear of the Almighty. A person with fear of Hashem this is what Shlomo HaMelech says, is the sign of wisdom. Anyone that has fear of Hashem, that's the first sign of wisdom. If someone is not fearing Hashem, is not careful on their blessings, and not careful on the way they use Hashem's name, is not careful of how they behave, they have nothing. They could be a scientist, they could be a president, they could be anything they want in the material world that we live in, but it means absolutely nothing. Because the real world is eternal, this world is temporary. So very, very important to make sure that we do these things, and it's to teach us that we have to take Hashem in mind at all times. And that is the beginning and the foundation of Yirat Shamayim. So thank you for learning with me. May Hashem continue to bless you, and may all of you have a Shabbat Shalom Mevorach. Kol Tuv.